Brought to you in part by Susan Shoup at Exclusive Realtors, servicing northwest suburbs, west and south Chicagoland, including Will and Kankakee counties. Welcome back, everybody. Part 2 of the 392 gear swap. We're going to be on the rear diff. So, as most know, on the DT trucks, it uses a ZF rear axle. And as you can see, there is no more toner ring here. So they are not referencing any speed based on this. So that's nice for removal and stuff. You're not worrying about any kind of damage to the ring if you hit the bottom of the case. Now, all I did was take the two big bolts for the anchor for the rear brakes and I rested them up there. Now this, I have a locker. So for those wondering what style locker this is, if you look inside the side here, you see the teeth on the inside. When this electromagnet engages, those teeth come out and grab this side gear and lock it. And that's how this style works. So I know there was questions on that. I myself had them. So if you do have the locker, they have this protruding through. This plugs into that, and then the locker plugs into it from this side. So it's basically like a feed through for the electric, but you can't pull this out without undoing this one. So I'm not even going to take it out because there's really no need, but to unplug these, I used a little pick, and you got to pull this back, and then you got to push it down like this, and it'll come out. This one I had to do that with the pick, and unplug it with the pick and everything because you can't get your hands in there. So basically now I'm going to take that center pin out, take the C-clips out, set the axles to the side, and then we can get this carrier out. So I do have the axles out. So I just slid the pin out. I did have to take the rotors off because they were hitting the backing plates. There's not enough room to get the clips out. So they had to go in just a little farther. So you take the pin out, push the axles in, the C-clips will drop out. And then it's nice to have this horizontal so that they will fall right in here. But then you slide the axle out. Now, it usually will catch. You see that threaded piece right there. That little groove will catch it. So you have to, while you're sliding the axle out, center it as best you can so you can get it out of there. But then put the pin back in so that you don't accidentally have these spider gears fall out. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but why would you want to mess with that? So the next step will be loosening up these bearing caps and these threaded adjusters inside. I got a tool for that right there. Let's see if we can get a light on that. So you see inside there, there's that hex. That's how you can turn it. Now, I don't know that this rod is long enough, so I'll probably have to like put a socket on there and like tape it on real good so that I can go in and out with it and not worry about it falling off inside. So the tool is long enough, just barely, where it sticks out the end here, and it comes with this little sleeve to protect that seal. There's a little bit of force on it to break it loose, but it came loose with a little effort. I broke it loose with this, and this is not a breaker bar. Now, by doing that on cars that maybe people have done with just shims here, sometimes they're real tight and you got to wedge and get this thing out. But now that I backed this off, now there's actually space here. So you set the preload with these. So I don't think I have to loosen the other side yet. When I go to set them back up, I'll back this one off a little bit and you tighten this till it touches the, you know, there's no backlash, and then you tighten this side, and then see where you're at, and then adjust accordingly to between 6 to 8 thousandths. So to initially get this nut on the end into that hole on that side, I put an extension on this socket to give me leverage so I could tip it up, because there wasn't enough meat to grab on to get it to go in there. But now it's good, so with the extension. So now basically I'm gonna pull these caps off back here and pull the carrier out, and then I can swap the ring gear. So as you can see here, there's a better look at those adjusters. So there's that big hex that tool slides into. And you can see the mark where it was before. So when I put it back, I'm probably going to get it close to that line, at least to start. So now it's getting the pinion out, get the bearing off the pinion, and then I'm going to do some measuring of the pinion head and the shims and see where we're at. Okay, so I pretty much got it stripped out. I'm gonna leave this for now. I'm gonna try to reuse the bearing that's on here. That's the stock pinion. If I can get it off without bending it up, which I might be able to, but if I can't, I have another race, or the Timken bearing that goes in there, but I got to change the race because it's a different angle, so there's no way I would have to. You see those little grooves top and bottom? That's where you can, there's the same on the back side of this race, so you can tap the this big race out. And I probably could do it too without taking this bearing out or the seal. I do have all this stuff, but I'd just rather not disturb it if I don't have to. To get the pinion out, I got the nut off, and then I put it back on almost all the way so I wouldn't mess up these threads. And I wrapped it with a hammer a couple times just to break it loose. And then I used this air hammer with the point on it in the center of that to drive it out. If you don't have an air hammer, you can use a hammer for the whole way, but you're probably gonna mess up the threads. This can still be, like, I could sell it or whatever, it's not trashed. As far as this goes, these bolts were super tight, man. My impact wasn't getting them loose. I did heat up the ring a little bit in a circle and that was making the bolts looser. But I ended up putting it in the vise because the way the side gears are set up, it's a nice flat spot so it wouldn't spin. And I used a breaker bar for the rest. But it was already heated up. But I didn't want to heat it up too much because of this in here. So heat was transferring up, so I decided to stop with the heat. But thankfully they all came out. This is the ring gear, the new one. As you can see, it is double drilled. So this is for the 9, the regular 9 1/4, and this is for the ZF 9 1/4. It's bigger bolts, and they're a little bit farther out. So it doesn't matter where I go, there's just stuff everywhere. On every flat surface, there's something. But this is a tool I got probably 5 years ago, and it works awesome. So the bearing did survive, the stock one, so I'm going to use it. The clamshells go under the bearing like this. There's a piece that spins in there that pushes down on the pinion and pulls up on the clamshells. So when the bearing is on there, so this would be the starting position. You would have, the bearing would be on there. You run it down with the impact gun and it'll just pull it right off. And then the bearing would be inside there, but I already took it off. So, but yo, that's it. The heat trick worked. I got it on. It was like a super tight interference fit. So Um, it's transferring heat back to the carrier again, but it should be okay. So I'm gonna leave the bolts in there for now until it cools all together, because the ring gear, when I loosen the bolts, they're falling off again. So I'm just gonna let it match temperature, so that it stays on, and then I'm gonna pull each one of these out, put some blue Loctite on them, and torque them down. And right now I have the pinion gear cooking right now. So what I did find out is the stock pinion did not have a shim under it. I thought it did, but it doesn't. So I measured the gear from the back face to there, and it's pretty close to the thickness of this one from here to there. Here, this doesn't have that protruding piece on the face. They're pretty close, so I'm going to just run it first. Just going to run it with no shim. Obviously I will check it, and if it's not going to work out, I'll pull the bearing back off, and then we'll add from there. But I'm going to start with nothing. I looked all over. There's nowhere with that tool. There's nowhere it could have went. It would have been inside the clamshell or on the pinion, and I don't see it anywhere over there. So I've never seen that before, but I don't know. Maybe ZF does something different. So yeah, so I'm waiting for that to heat up so I can get that on there and we can start putting the pinion back. So I got everything in temporary for now. These bolts are pretty snug. The adjusters are preloaded, and I got the dial indicator set up. Now the ring gear, I can show you later. It's etched on there 6/1000. So all we need to do is, it's at 0, right at 6. So all I got to do is check the pattern, and as long as the pinion is okay, I can pop the pinion back out, put the new crush sleeve in, set the bearing preload, and then go right back to this part, and then I can put it back together. Okay, so with the right backlash set and without any pinion shims, we're right, got that little thin line above the tooth, and it's starting towards the bottom, but not all the way at the bottom. I think it's just perfect. So I just have to take this all out, put a new crush sleeve in, and set the pinion preload, and finally can get this thing back together. So I got the pinion all done. I set the preload with this. It's just between probably 12 and 15 inch-pounds for a used bearing. And then I just attach the drive shaft and put Loctite back on the bolts. So now it's back to setting the ring gear back in there in the carrier, and then we're on the home stretch, because this was the pain in the ass part. Okay, so everything is back in with the crush sleeve. Got that plugged in up here. That was wasn't bad at all. And I got the axles in with the C-clips, and I put some Loctite on that bolt. I did 100 foot-pounds on the caps and 75 foot-pounds of preload on the side, as far as tightening it. So after the pinion depth has been set, and this is all in place, so you're adjusting these bearings from the side, and up to 75 foot-pounds is where they want you to torque it. So to get your backlash, you can drive this side towards the pinion as close as you want, then drive the passenger side the other way and torque it and see where your backlash is. Let's say, example, it's 10 thousandths, and you want to bring it to 6. So now on this side, you want to just back off just a little bit, and then go to the driver's side. Now, if I was to do this again, I'd order another one of those tools, so you don't have to keep switching side to side, because that was a pain. But so you would like I said, 10 thousandths. You want to go to 6. Go on this side, back it off a little bit. Go to back to this side, torque it, and then spin it a little bit here. Torque it again on this side, and then torque the main caps, and then check your backlash. And let's say, you know, it went to 2 thousandths and you went too much. Now you just had to do the reverse. But you could do that back and forth until you get to where you need to be. So that's the whole thing with the backlash. So I kind of like that setup, and it just eliminates all that shim crap. So what can I say of what I think about the swap on here? I would say the front definitely is like no-brainer. The back with the gear setup and stuff might be next level for some people. So tools that you would definitely need for this, a dial indicator is one for sure. I ended up with the ring gear called for 6 thousandths, and I got it after a million times trying back and forth. It settled at 7, so I'm going to leave it at that. A dial indicator, this tool here for the adjuster, like I showed you through the axles, that plate bolts to the flange of the pinion so that you can hold it still and do the crush sleeve. You'll need a torque wrench, preferably that goes over 100, because you don't like to max out. You know, if I use 100 as the highest torque setting on anything here, so it goes up to 150. That way you got some room there. That bearing tool that I showed you over there to pull the bearing off, that is definitely a lifesaver if you have it, but like if you're just going to do this once, it's just not worth it. And that might be where you would not do this yourself, because like if I had to remove it a couple times, I mean, you can't keep going to a shop. I mean, you could, but you're going to waste all day doing that instead of just being able to do it here. I do have a press too, but I put the bearing in a toaster oven and it just slid right on. I didn't have to press it, so that was good with that. But some things you can get lucky with and some not. So it's just if you have the bearing tool and you have a press and other means, like I said, if you don't have that stuff, if you can borrow it, that's one thing, but I wouldn't buy it all to do it. You know, you got to look at what it would cost you to do it versus just paying someone else if you didn't want to buy all those tools. I've done probably 90 differential changeouts throughout my years, and I use it quite often, so there's that. Now for me, the side adjuster thing for the bearings, that was something new I've never done. I do like it because you don't have to worry about these side shims and preload, and it's easier to get the carrier out when you just take the pressure off and this just drops out, because sometimes you got to tap them in and pry them out, and you know, that can be a pain. But this part, that made that easier. So other than that, it's just another typical regular rear axle. So there's nothing else special about it. So with that being said, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can't activate the locker. I just want to make sure that it turns on before I put the cover on and all that. And well, that's another thing from the factory. They put some crazy thick sealer on here. This took quite a bit of prying to get it off. So that's going to be fun cleaning that thing. At least it's stuck to this side and not there's a little bit on the actual axle, but not too much. Well, literally all I have left to do is clean up the cover, put it on, and put oil in it, and then lower it down. And I got some front stuff I have to snug up because I want the vehicle weight on it before I tightened it. That way it just doesn't have to settle, it's already there. And then that's it. So I'm not gonna show putting oil in it or nothing like that. That's pretty, there's nothing to it. So yeah, and then maybe I'll take it for a drive. With the key off, or engine off, key on, I was able to engage the locker As you see, the teeth are locked in now. So I know that works. Okay, took it for a ride. No gear noise, no issues there. The speedometer's dead on. The transmission shifts perfectly fine, and I did no tuning or no changing of any kind of calibration. So, which is what I was told wouldn't be an issue anyway. But verified gear swap did nothing with the transmission. Does not shift funny. Like I said, speedometer's correct, and uh, yeah, I like it. Obviously, I drove it for a break-in period, like you're supposed to drive it for 10, 20 miles and then let it sit and then, do it again, which will be perfect for me because tomorrow that's about how far I drive to work and back. And then uh, we can go from there. But until I break them in, I don't want to do any more like testing with it. But I could tell just from driving it that it's where it should be now instead of those 321s. This is like perfect. Like with less throttle, it was accelerating differently. You could tell. So I am pretty happy that I did the swap. It was a little tedious with the checking and the bearings and all that with the back. So I have to tell you, I think the front was way better than the back because the front only took me longer because I had to get a couple tools I didn't have and those bolts I was talking about. But yeah, so I think it's worth the swap to me. But that's up to you to decide that yourself. But um, more to come. I will do a part 3, like I said, with a comparison of everything, gas mileage, and for that truck. Like I said, we're doing like for like trucks, acceleration, etc. So please hit that like and subscribe button, and we will catch you on the next one.